Hello. The Midheaven in Astrology. Highest point in your chart is about your career image, your ability to get your professional life successful, to get to the top, to achieve your goals in your career. So the Midheaven is very important, and it's often overlooked simply because when people are new to astrology, they don't really look at it, right? I mean, nobody even looks at the Midheaven until they're actually astrologers. And even astrologers don't really pay it too much attention simply because it's not the ascendant, it's not a planet, it's an angle. Yet the angles are actually far more important than people think. It's actually so important that if you don't know what your Midheaven is, then you don't know what kind of personality reigns supreme in your career. Like, you don't even know how much of your image is inside the Midheaven. If you think about image, you normally think about the sun or the ascendant. But the Midheaven shows you it's just as important as the ascendant, if you ask me, simply because this is how you're going to be perceived in your career all the time. So let's go through the Midheavens from Aries till Pisces. So if you have an Aries Midheaven, and join the club, because I have an Aries Midheaven. Aries is the warrior archetype. So the warrior comes in the Midheaven, the alpha of the zodiac, which is about courage and determination. It can be a little bit intimidating simply because they just do what they want and they don't care about the consequences. So they're very impulsive in their career. So other people perceive you, if you have Midheaven and Aries, as somebody who's gonna do whatever it takes to get the job done, and they're just their authentic self in their career, which is quite odd because your career is like, who is themselves in their career? How can you be yourself if, for example, you work at a 9 to 5 job, if you're working in an office, if you're working on hast du nicht gesehen, like at school, if you're working in mostly this is like an entrepreneur. If you don't do your own thing, you're gonna have a hard time, because Aries Midheaven is very difficult for people who have to submit to somebody else's rule, because they can't keep themselves contained for too long. They have to do what they want in their career, to put it simply, because Aries rules the will and the self-identity. So if your career is not an expression or an extension of your own identity, of your own sense of self, then you're not going to be very successful in your career. Okay, so the sign shows you how successful you're going to be based on the qualities that you need to achieve your success. So what if you have Taurus Midheaven? Well, with Taurus, you would be somebody who needs stability in the workplace. It's all about money. As long as my career can get me paid, I'm happy. As long as I feel comfortable doing my job, as long as I can have some kind of a simple life. Like if I'm a gardener, if I work on a farm, if I do some heavy laboring, if I do some kind of craftsmanship, if I produce some valuable goods and I sell them, or if I trade them, like workplace trading, like selling something online, as long as I'm simply peddling the goods and I am presenting the goods, I am basically representative of everything that's valuable about me in my life, what I find luxurious, what I find to be high quality. So in your career, you want to represent value. You are somebody who can sell people something that is going to be really, really good. It could also be something to do with your art. Maybe something that you produce, that you have created yourself. It could also be dancing or singing. Anything that makes people think, oh, you're a good object, right? Because it's about objects, Taurus. And it's about modeling. So it could also be in the fashion industry, could be in photoshopping, photo shooting, anything where you deal with beauty or beautification or decoration. So this kind of stuff you will have to do in Korea. If you don't do any of this, even remotely, then what the hell are you doing being a Taurus Midheaven? So next thing, Gemini Midheaven. If you have Gemini Midheaven, you'll be all about journalism, distribution of information. This is what you have to do in your job. Or maybe you simply have to use your physical body, your arms, your shoulders. Maybe you have to talk about something, public speaking. Maybe you're a politician. Maybe you're a group representative. Maybe you're doing a lot of advertising. Maybe you work for an agency, writing for them, doing some kind of language articulation, translation. This also indicates travel. So maybe you're running around, changing your job very often, very erratic. You kind of need some kind of freedom in your job, but you don't want to go too far. So you take your job in a more light-hearted manner. You don't take your job very seriously. And you don't need it to be serious. You just need to be able to talk to people, to be able to connect to them. So you need to do something in social occupation, maybe like as a social worker, but it could even be in psychology, as long as you can make relationships with people, as long as you can have some kind of dualistic experience where you work with people who are more light-hearted. It's more superficial, to be honest with you. You're not really looking to engage on a deep one-on-one basis. You're looking to just have some fun, you know. Can also be entertainment, can also be gaming, technology, because it's ruled by Mercury. And Mercury is, of course, about programming or repairs, construction, repairing vehicles, putting things together, very mechanical, using your hands somehow, but can even be sewing, doing some kind of craftsman work where you need to be very flexible with your fingers, or something where you use your arms in a sport. So it could be tennis, could even be baseball. So that's Gemini Midheaven. If you're not doing anything where you use either your voice, your mouth a lot, or your hands a lot, typing or writing or anything like that, then what are you doing? You have to do what your Midheaven is telling you to do. If you don't, why are you surprised that you're not happy in your career? But if you are happy, not doing any of this, then you must be appealing to some other placements. But in some way, this is your public persona. So next thing, Cancer Midheaven. Cancer Midheaven is about working maybe in real estate, but doesn't have to be. It could also be being a landlord, decorating people's homes, or taking care of children, like being a mother figure, nurturing, taking care of something or someone, but also protection. Can also be security officer, can be securing a bar. What does that have to do with Cancer, you're asking? Well, Cancer is about claws, and with claws is about protection, holding on, guarding places. Yeah. So if you're guarding some kind of space, can also be a warden, can be a prison, can even be police. Aries Midheaven would also be police, being some kind of lawyer or something. But here Cancer Midheaven is also about hospitality, taking care of people's needs, feeding people, cooking for people, catering to them, doing their bed, taking care of people. Can also be in a hospital, can be in an environment where you have to do some kind of psychology work also. Usually, if you have Cancer Midheaven, you may have an Libra ascendant, or you have an early Scorpio ascendant, or a late Virgo ascendant. So you'll be somebody who needs to heal people, needs to work with people to improve their lives. Can also be coaching, life coaching. Can also be working in some kind of place where you have to do some kind of collective work, gathering things, selling crystals, selling spiritual goods, selling divination tools, crafting stuff. It is very witchy, because Cancer, it's witchcraft. But it can also be simply that you are an astrologer, or you are what was that other thing that Cancer Midheaven does? If you are just a stay-at-home mom, or if you're a family figure, could also be that you are involved in a social institution. Doesn't have to be a mental institution, can simply be working with people who are younger than you. Okay, so Cancer Midheaven, you need to take care of people or protect people. And if you're not doing either of that, then again, what are you doing with your life? I have to ask you. Next thing. After Cancer Midheaven, we have Leo Midheaven. Now Leo needs to be the king, so you need to be in control of people. You need to command people. You need to take charge in your environment, in your workplace. You want to order people around. I mean, let's face it. You are quite kind of bossy, Leo Midheaven, and you want people to know that you know your shit. You are the authority, because it's ruled by the sun. So you must be successful in your career. You must be first. Can be something where you are in a competition with people, but it's also very personal because it's fire element. Like Aries Midheaven, Sagittarius Midheaven, you need to do your own business somehow. Often we find entrepreneurs here, people who they fight for their career because they know if they don't express their passion, their deepest zest, and put that fire into the workplace, then it kind of sucks. You need to have fun at your work. You may work with something creative, but that also means recreational activities, hobbies. You're doing something of entertainment where you give people fun, you give people enjoyment. But it can also be working with children, can even be taking care of children, or you are a comedian, or you are working in the film industry, or you are an actor, or you work in the government, because it rules authority figures. Like I said, you need to command people around. It's about respect and admiration and putting the weight on your shoulders, so you feel like you need to do something important, something of relevance. And if you're not doing any of that, then again, what the fuck are you doing? Next one. We have Virgo Midheaven. Now Virgo Midheaven is also ruled by Mercury, just like Gemini Midheaven. So again, you need to do some kind of writing, some kind of production of intellectual goods. But here, instead of being light-hearted and just having fun, here you have to work hard. You have to do some kind of scientific investigation, doing some kind of research in the background. Virgo Midheaven, they don't like to be in the public like the Gemini, who is like the weatherman. I'm in front of the camera, everybody sees me, ha ha ha. No. With Virgo Midheaven, it's the dark side of Mercury. So you're working very hard in the background. You may not get the recognition that you desire. but you excel in your work. You're very meticulous. And no, you don't have to clean toilets. That's not what Virgo Midheaven is about. This is about cleaning up people's shit, yes, but doesn't have to be toilets. It can be simply that you're helping problem solving. You may be working in a CEO company where you are doing all the math. You are getting the numbers correctly. You see, tuk, 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 this is what needs to be done, this needs to be done. You create schedules, you create routines, you organize things for other people. Maybe you work as an assistant, you structure things around, but you can also be a manager. You put people into their boxes where they have to work, and you order them. This is what you have to do. You may also be a supervisor. You may tell people, look, this is your problem, this is the solution, do it, or get fucked. Because Virgo Midheaven is very critical, it's very honest. You're here to do good work, and everybody knows that that is what you are about. Everybody knows you're very critical, you're very investigative, and you don't leave any stone unturned to get the correct and healthy information to do the job as efficiently as possible. So here you're improving the efficiency, you're improving health. Can be health coaching, can be purification, can be detoxification, but doesn't have to be. Can also be that you are what are Virgo occupations? Like, I mean, everybody knows the scientist, that's obvious. But what is less obvious is not the herbalist, but the alchemist, physicist, chemistry. So working in some kind of fashion where you need to combine certain things, and you have to be careful. If you combine the wrong things, it's gonna explode. So you're working somewhere where you need to take on some heavy responsibilities. And if you fuck up, if you make a mistake, you're gonna lose your job. And this is what attracts you. This is where you excel. This is where you are needed. So you should ideally work somewhere where people punish you severely for doing mistakes. But where you punish severely, you also reward very strongly. Because normally this is where you belong, to make as few mistakes in your career as possible. So then you have the next one, which is Libra Midheaven. So Libra, again, like Aries, it's about lawyers. But like Taurus, it's about trading. But it's, unlike both of them, it's about music as well. So we have beautification and harmony in what way? Well, how can we sell harmony to people? How can we make a job out of it? Of course, if we're making music, if we are entertaining people for something that is beautiful and charming, so that other people are kind of mesmerized with something that we're doing. But it will also be working with people one-on-one, where we need to sell some kind of product, or we need to sell ourselves, because this is very personal. You don't normally think that about Libra, but when it comes to the Midheaven, everybody knows how charming you are. Everybody knows you are very fair and you're very graceful. Well, why are you that? Because whatever you try to sell, you sell successfully. So you're going to be very good at persuading people to buy whatever it is that you have to sell. And of course, it can also be dancing, can also be singing, can also be doing some kind of art. But that's the obvious stuff. The less obvious stuff is doing some kind of work where you have to evaluate how well other people are doing. You have to judge people, in other words. So this can be in management, where you have to be very, very critical in your work. And normally you wouldn't think that, because Libra is so nice, but not with a Libra Midheaven. Here the masculine energy of a sign comes forth in being able to put people like Virgo into boxes, but people into boxes. So you're working in making sure that people are organizing their life. They're getting the right job. They're getting the right treatment. Can also be medical industry, because in the medical industry, you have to be very, very graceful. You have to be very, very diplomatic, very patient, because you have all these nagging people trying to get something. Oh, I'm hurt. Can't you treat me for this? You need to listen to people's problems all the time, their complaints. So you need to be patient. The patience quality of Libra, why do you have it? It's because in your career, this is what's demanded of you. So if you're not doing something where you are making people so comfortable that they are selling their soul to you, or if you're not judging people like a lawyer, then what are you doing? Okay. Next one is Scorpio Midheaven. Scorpio Midheaven, you need to have some kind of power over other people, because in order to make this Midheaven work, you need to be a person of influence and control. Usually, you see a lot of people working in finances or psychology with Scorpio Midheaven. People who are able to control other people's resources. Because Scorpio is about controlling what other people are doing with their life. So here you must have control over other people's lives. You must influence. Ironically, it can be an influencer, like somebody who does such a good job selling their stuff that they become an influential figure. Everybody knows about them. Oh, it's this guy and he's doing his own thing and I want to be like him. Because it's also ruled by Mars. So it's very personal. People, they like you for who you are with Scorpio Midheaven. And whatever you're trying to sell, you're selling it in order to get to people. So in order to get to people, you must have a personal connection. You must form relationships. You must have some kind of intimate connections in which other people are giving power over you. They're handing it over so that you can have control over the resources. Maybe you're coaching people about finances in a big corporation. Maybe you're being a psychologist, taking care of people's emotional problems. Maybe you are simply selling products that people need really badly, and they need them in order to fix very specific emotional blockages. Maybe you need some kind of position where you fight people. Because Scorpio is ruled by Mars, so you want to see a problem and you want to cut it out. So this is where you are slicing things around. A lot of people with Scorpio Midheaven are working in the military because it deals with death, right? Killing people, destroying stuff. Can also be, another example can even be working on a garbage facility, destroying the garbage. Because Scorpio is about people's shit. So you're dealing with their shit. It can even be in a garbage bin or as a garbage man in the worst manifestation. In the best manifestation, you're a general, you're controlling people around, you're a manager, you are a coach, a life coach, but you're the kind of coach who's kind of annoying, who's telling people what they don't want to hear. You're telling people about their shit. You're informing them about things that they're not looking at, but they need to be looking at. So you're dealing with all the stuff that people, they get rid of that. So you may work far away on the corners of society, somewhere where you're not really appreciated. Maybe a lot of people hate you. Can even be notorious in its reputation. Can also be dealing with sex. Selling sex toys, having a sex shop, being in the porn industry, you know. All of these are Scorpio Midheaven manifestations. So if you aren't being a porn star, then what are you doing with your life? Okay? That was a joke. Obviously. So, next thing, Sagittarius Midheaven. Sagittarius Midheaven is about travel, philosophy, being a priest, preaching to people. This is the gospel. This is what you need to learn. That's the boring kind of stuff you read online, which is so boring it's making my head spin. No, that's not what this Midheaven is about. This Midheaven is about learning something for personal experience, going the distance. You're really deep investigator. Like you go so far with your research and you get obsessed with stuff. And you learn so much, you master it. And through that mastery, everybody looks at you and they say, oh, this guy knows everything. This guy could be a professor. This guy could be a teacher, a guru, some kind of master somewhere. Can be a priest. Everybody comes to you for advice. Everybody comes to you because you know something that they need to know, but they haven't got the experience yet. They haven't got the life lessons yet to know how to fix their issue, how to get back on the path. Sagittarius is the path, so you're showing people the path back to the light, back to meaning, getting perspective, a better perspective on the situation. You're helping guide people somehow. It could even be a spirit guide, it could even be a shaman working with plant medicines. It can be somebody who's coaching people on what kind of life path to take, what kind of job to take. You can be working, of course, in a travel agency, guiding people through the country. You're showing people places. You're showing people that you have gone to and you know those places in and out. So it makes you an expert on exploration. No, not the fucking boring, I can't hear it anymore, fucking physical travel exploration, but the mental and spiritual exploration. So that could be like, you read in a book about the Bhagavad Gita, like religion, you know, like this boring stuff. You read somewhere in this demonic book and you picked up these quotes. But it can also be you made up your mind your own. You already are past all that bullshit, and now you are trying to tell people, what is it that you found? What is it that you experienced? So you have to tell people something very personal, because again, it's a fire Midheaven, so it's about you. It's about self-development. So whatever you're teaching, it has to improve themselves, who they are. It must make their mind like, oh, my mind is blown. I thank you for your wisdom, like this kind of stuff. To give them direction. Yeah, you give people direction when you're in the travel agency. Boring. You give people direction when you tell them something that they don't know, which they need to know, to get away from all the fucking brainwashing and get back to reality. So that's Sagittarius Midheaven. Now, next one. Capricorn Midheaven. Capricorn, of course, everybody thinks that whatever job they give you, you're gonna work hard on that job. And you're going to take on responsibilities. So people can rely on you. People know that you are in an elite position. You are reliable. You somehow seem very mature in your job. You take your job so seriously, it's like mind blown. Like you go crazy with your career. You show everybody you get the job done correctly. you're an authority. You're like not like this camera. You're competent in your job. So people look for you for wisdom and guidance, but in terms of physical matters, not spiritual matters. But they want some kind of reasoning, some kind of logic, some kind of tell me what to do, because you seem to know what you're doing, so I will follow you. And you know what you're doing because you seem to be successful. You are able to achieve your goals. When somebody gives you a job, you tend to get it done. And you don't like to fuck things up. So you can be very, very like, you can work in places where you have to work extremely hard and nobody's really appreciating what you're doing because it's something you have to do. So you may work in a job that you don't really want to be doing. Ironically. Because Capricorn Midheaven is usually people who have Aries ascendant. Or early degrees Pisces ascendant. So people who are very much in their own world, and then in their career they're complete opposite. So why? Well, because you need some kind of stability, because you're trying to balance the rest of your life. So the career is the most stable place in your life. This is what's always going to have to work for you. And what kind of occupations can you have here? Well, you can have occupations like working in the government, because you're so reliable, people give you responsibilities. They give you things to do which normally, if you fuck them up, it's unforgivable. You can't fuck it up. So you do that. You're like a pillar of stability. You're like Saturn incarnate in your career. And you can be a little bit intimidating because people, they look up to you. Maybe you work with people who are younger than you, but also older people, because the older people, they already learned all the lessons that they needed, but you don't need to learn your lessons because you are just that serious from the beginning. Capricorn Midheaven, they also have occupations doing the stuff nobody really wants to do. Sorry to say, but it's like matrix jobs. It's like working in the Borg cube. It's like working in an office. You do pretty much anything as long as it's stable. But you want to climb in your career. So you have to be in command. You have to work higher up. You're working in an elite position, and if you don't, then what are you doing? Because clearly you're not embodying this Midheaven if you're not doing that. So that's basically it for it. Not very exciting, but it's one of the most successful positions where you can have a Midheaven, because it's in its own sign, so it should be good. It usually means good fortune, stability in your job. Okay, Aquarius Midheaven. You need, obviously, you need freedom in your career. So boring. Of course you need freedom. It's fucking Aquarius. But you tend to be kind of strange in your career. Not like, oh yeah, you're the rebel, we know all this boring stuff. But you're the weirdo. People think, what the fuck is this guy doing? Can we even trust this guy? Can we rely on him? People don't know if they can rely on you. But what they do know is that you're gonna fuck shit up. And you're gonna bring people together. Like, people can feel comfortable around you. So you're very, very good in group projects. You may work as an activist. You work as a group representative. Because the group doesn't trust you with a job, no, but it trusts you with representing them. Because you know people, and they feel like, yeah, you're the cool guy at your workplace. You're like, well, you seem to you know the latest gist, like you got the newest information, you know something about everybody, because you're a people person. You are someone who is like the star in Taurus, but here the star takes from the pond of the people. You have to use people's resources. Here is where you appreciate people, and because the way you work with people gets the job done for you. So it's not you who people can rely on. You are not doing anything. You are commanding people. You're telling people how to work. And that's because you know exactly what their strengths and weaknesses are. Because you know people maybe even better than you know yourself. Almost. It's like if you work in this position, you will be working in places where some kind of detachment is required, because you're working with technology, you're working with journalism, you're working with distribution of information, just like Gemini, but you're doing that while working with people. And if you don't have the right people for your cause, you're gonna get rid of them. You don't have any problem cutting the wrong people out. And that's why people know you're kind of erratic. You're a little bit unpredictable. So people, they like to give you some kind of job where they need the unexpected, where they need something fresh, they need ideas. So this is some kind of creative work. This can be working in an art job, in an art gallery, designing, or it can also be gaming, creating some kind of artificial environment. Can also be if you're working as a doctor, you also need some kind of detachment, because let's face it, I mean, if you're in the medical industry, it's a very cold environment. Working in cold environments is an Aquarius Midheaven thing. Somewhere where you don't require any heart, where you don't require any passion. You just need to be working for the people, and you need to feel like you meet a lot of new people, you're always learning something new, and you know something that people need in order to survive. So I hope it makes sense. Of course, you may also work in social media, like networking, like you're bringing people together, you're helping people to self-actualize. Can also be some kind of individuation, something where, you're doing something very unusual, something very unique, very self-expressive, and you may get fired from a lot of jobs because people can't really control you, and they don't know what you're going to do next, and you don't know what you're going to do next. So you need to be able to change your profession lots of times. You need to be able to move around. You need to be able to not know what comes next, what comes tomorrow. You need to be surprised. If there's routine, if it's always the same 9 to 5, it's not going to work for you. If you are in a 9 to 5 routine, always the same job, then what the fuck are you doing, Aquarius Midheaven? Next one. Last one. Pisces Midheaven. So Pisces Midheaven is about spirituality. Yeah, we know all this boring stuff. We know it's about art, it's about music, it's about beauty, but it's also about movie making. A lot of actors have his Midheaven. A lot of Gemini ascendants or Taurus ascendants in the latest degrees, but even Cancer ascendant in the earliest degrees. They can have Pisces Midheaven. So they're people that do something that gets you out of a body, gets you away from the physical world. You may work in secluded environments. You may work in a church, in a prison, mental institution, somewhere where people go underground and they hide. You may work alone in the background, serving people, helping people, behind closed doors, where nobody knows what you're doing. You can also be a scientist, like in a lab, in an office where you're alone and nobody disturbs you. You can have a lot of self-isolation in this job. Can even be in a garden or like in a forest, and you have a garden of a forest. It can also be labor of some kind of craftsman where you create spiritual goods that help people to beautify their environment, make their life a little bit nicer. But you essentially, you want to do something that contributes to the emotional evolution of a collective. Working with symbols, working with archetypes, working with psychology, working with some kind of emotional regulation work. Something that makes people feel like they can relax. Can also be sleep. Hypnosis can be hypnotherapy, but doesn't have to be. I mean, if you think about it, music, dancing, singing, these are all forms of hypnosis. Creating altered states of consciousness is something you have to do. So it can also be writing. If you create movies, you also alter people's consciousness. If you act in a certain way, you are changing your personality in a way where other people don't know who you are. This is also very important with this Midheaven. Being a chameleon, being so underground, being an art teacher, being a lonely church or a monk, being somebody who works in a choir in the background, somebody who is a scientist in a lab, somebody who creates something. Other people don't know that you're doing anything until it is done. And they don't see you. They only see your products. They don't see who you really are in your career. You're very mysterious. You're like, nobody can really figure you out. You're very private. You keep yourself hidden in your career. You're very shy. You maybe even be very careful. You're very sensitive. So you can't work in an environment that is stressful, that has a lot of pressure on you, or you have to do a lot of work. You need to be able to relax, to take a time out and just be able to daydream, so you can use your imagination to go to faraway places. Midheaven Pisces can also be working in a faraway country, somewhere away from where they grow up, somewhere away from their home, away from their personal relationships. So they can also be a little bit secretive about their career. Nobody really knows what it is that they are doing. And this is why they also often work as psychics, as healers, people who work for the collective, and the collective doesn't know who they are, but they're just so selfless and so giving and so sweet and so kind, so compassionate. Everybody thinks you're just so nice and sweet, blah 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 blah. Pisces stuff. Soft water, like all the water Midheavens are like pussycats, okay? And they love you and they just want you to feel good about yourself. So they create something that makes you check out. So that's basically it. That's every Midheaven in a nutshell. So if you like this video, leave a like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.